Okay, welcome back to Daylight. Today is Wednesday, April the 1st, 2020, and this is our 10th broadcast. The theme, for those of you who are just catching this for the first time, is Change Yourself, Change the World. This is the purpose of this is to every day share a single tip that you can apply to your own life to improve yourself, to come out of the crisis situation that we're in better than when you started. And today I'm actually going to attempt to do a bit of a shorter video. I know these have been running anywhere from 20 to 30 minutes. I'm going to see if I can actually do one of these in under 10 minutes. The emphasis on this moving forward, I really want to be more about how you can improve yourself from an inner perspective. This isn't really it's not about politics at all. It's not about trying to change the political system or anything like that. It's what can you do internally to make yourself better. But I've been focusing for the last week or so a lot on technology. And the reason for that is, to me, this is a lot about empowerment. One of the most important things that we can do in a crisis situation, or even not in a crisis situation, is make sure that we have tools that allow us to communicate privately and securely with our friends and loved ones. And this is really under assault right now by both big government and big tech. We have censorship from the government regarding health matters to the point where you're seeing the World Health Organization and even the CDC and other groups trying to meet with and collude with big tech to shut down dissenting opinions, even if those opinions happen to be accurate. And that's really problematic, as we are, most of us, sitting here in a position of some form of quarantine, to then not be able to communicate or express or share information freely is obviously not constitutional, but actually represents a pretty significant risk to our physical security. So for that reason, I've really been focusing on what kind of tools are there out there that can replace the big tech, Facebook, Twitter, Gmail, Google tools that we've all become so reliant upon. And most of these tools and most of these companies make money by offering free services, but in essence, they are sharing our personal data and invading our privacy to do it. So there's no such thing as free, but yet there are some new technology solutions around, a lot of it built on blockchain technology, which is what cryptocurrencies are based on. That offer a completely different way of doing things. And so a lot of what I've been showing is around that. So I'll do a really quick recap on some of the Daylight videos that I've done, just specifically focused on this area of decentralized technology. I discussed library.com, which is lbry.com, which is a censorship-resistant alternative to YouTube. And so you can check it out. You can sign up. It's free. My channel is on there. My username is Daylight. And in fact, if you sign up, send me either a message or post on one of the Facebook posts what your username is, and I will send you some LBC. LBC is the cryptocurrency used within the library environment. So again, library is one of these decentralized solutions where the community kind of drives how the technology works. And instead of it being ad-based, it uses its own internal cryptocurrency to reward publishers for their content. So that's the first one. Then I did a video on Minds.com, which is a censorship-resistant alternative to Facebook. I've set up a group there. It's not active yet. I haven't really. I want to start moving to that over time, but I do have a group there at Daylight. Again, this is another site you can go to. It's free to use, free to download, Minds.com. They have an app for both Android and iOS. And it is very similar in terms of functionality to what you see on Facebook. You have your own page, you can have your own blogs, there are channels, there are groups. But again, no ads. It is based on using its own cryptocurrency within the system you basically earn cryptocurrency by either people donating to you or by performing various actions, and then you can use that cryptocurrency to boost your posts or to tip other people whose content you like. So again, I think of a viable alternative moving forward to Facebook, particularly in light of the censorship that we've all had, and I think I've had at least three 30-day suspensions, and I know a lot of my friends have had multiple times where they've been booted off, and it's very arbitrary. And usually it doesn't matter because usually people don't go on Facebook for a serious conversation and interaction. But in times the times that we're in right now, we actually do need platforms to be able to communicate, and getting booted off because they arbitrarily decided they didn't like a meme that you shared is not really an acceptable model moving forward. Then I discussed on Daylight 5 an encrypted solution for texting and sending audio and video. And this is an app called Signal, which you can download at signal.org. And it uses heavy-duty encryption. So the only people that actually see the communication going from the sender to the receiver are the sender and the receiver. It uses encryption for that. There are also other features that it has, such as the ability to have disappearing messages, so that, for instance, if you want the other person on the end, once they see that message, it disappears off of their screen. They've embedded functionality like that. And I've been using this for a couple of years. Edward Snowden recommends Signal as a tool for text, audio, and video communication. So check it out. Again, another free app. Then in the sixth Daylight, I covered an alternative to Google Chrome or Safari or whatever you're using as a web browser. And admittedly, everything that I put out here, everything that I share, these are things that I've actually used. So I don't have any economic relationship with any of these entities. I'm just literally sharing my knowledge. I like playing around with technology. But Brave is something that I've only been using for under a week now. It was actually recommended by one of the people in the Daylight group, and I'm very appreciative to that because just in using it for a week, I found it's faster. It's generally the Brave browser is 3 to 6 times faster. It blocks ads, and again, their business model. And the way you can really understand these things is by looking, well, how do they make money? They don't make money selling ads. They don't make money selling your information. They have an opt-in cryptocurrency called these, if you see here, Brave Rewards, these BAT tokens. And BAT stands for Basic Attention Tokens. And so you can voluntarily choose whether or not you want to try to earn this cryptocurrency. And if you do, then you watch various ads. And as you watch those ads, you earn these tokens, and then you can contribute those tokens, donate those tokens to various content providers. So this is their way of moving away from ads and moving towards actually paying content providers directly. And I discussed this in the second Daylight video that I ever did, which talks about why crypto is a even viable alternative to the US dollar and to fiat currency in general. And one of the main features is the ability to do micropayments. If you use a credit card, you actually have to pay a 30-cent fee plus a percentage of the transaction. So that means it's impossible. You couldn't do a transaction for a fraction of a cent. But with cryptocurrencies, the transaction costs are 1/1000th of a penny or less, which means that you could actually, if you were somebody like Google or you were a search engine, you could charge a fraction of a cent, which people would be willing to pay. They would not be willing to pay the 35 cents plus just to cover the transaction costs of using credit cards and using digital money tied to fiat. And so, as you can see just on the screenshot here, it does block all of the ads and all of the trackers. And I know from my perspective, if I go to the Union Leader website, which is a news site here in New Hampshire, usually this is one of these things where it's loaded with ads, and then after five views, they require you to pay. And actually using this browser, the ads go away, and that requirement to pay after viewing a few articles also has gone away. And so it's a very refreshing tool, and I recommend you check it out. And then last night, I discussed an alternative to Gmail and Hotmail, which is a service called Protonmail, which is a fully encrypted email system. So again, this uses heavy-duty encryption technology on both ends. And so when you're sending email, kind of like Signal, which I showed you encrypts text and video and chat, Protonmail is more for email, but it's the same general concept. It's encrypted on both sides. You can even specify, as you're sending your email, how long you want the email to be there for. The email will actually disappear based on the duration settings that you put into it. And so this is something that I recommend. And with a lot of these things, I still have Gmail. I mean, I'll use Gmail for my e-commerce receipts and for stuff like that. But if I have important communication, family communication, if I'm doing anything that involves documents and attachments, this is where I really recommend looking at something like Protonmail. And tonight, I'm going to talk briefly about a search alternative. Most of us use Google at this point is the dominant player in the search area. But they are incredibly invasive with respect to your privacy and what they track, particularly if you're using Gmail in conjunction with a mobile device, in conjunction with their search. They're really collecting all of that data about you and using it in various ways. The DuckDuckGo business model is completely different than the Google model. They have a business model that it is still advertising based, but it is completely untracked. So the advertising that they target to you is based on what you typed into the search box, not based on who you are. So Google's this is why this is this scary stuff where you're on, different social media sites and you're like, well, wait, how did this ad appear here when I was using this different service? I mean, Google is integrating all of and tracking everything that you do at the profile level and then giving you ads, whereas DuckDuckGo does the advertising just simply based on what you typed into the search box. This is just a quick graph that shows that DuckDuckGo has really been growing in terms of number of searches through their service. And I'm not going to say that their search results are necessarily better than Google. I mean, Google has a lot of data and their algorithms, may be better. But I've also noticed, which I'll show you an example of, Google has very much been cracking down. They are censoring their own search results. And so while their core algorithms might be better, they are Churchill. Their core algorithms might be better. They do add their own little level of filtration on top of it. So I think I've already discussed, kind of the main points between the two, between DuckDuckGo and Google, and it really is around the idea of DuckDuckGo simply not tracking your personal information or creating filters for you in any way, shape, or form. In addition, DuckDuckGo will automatically change the links to point to encrypted versions of those sites, and so that's another plus. I'm going to switch and do a live demo here. Let me see. Here we go. This is DuckDuckGo. I'm running DuckDuckGo using the Brave browser, in fact. So this is Brave. You can see the icons up here near the URL bar. That's the Brave. I guess you can't actually see my mouse, but the Brave logo and the basic attention logo. So if I type in, for instance, YouTube censorship, this was interesting. I actually did this when I did the video on libraries, an alternative to YouTube. I actually found when I did that search on DuckDuckGo, I got a completely different set of results than when I actually did that same search on YouTube. I wanted to point this out as an example. I mean, you'll see it's a basic search engine. I mean, you can search images, videos. I mean, it's largely the same at the core as what you see with Google, but the search results are different. Google owns YouTube, and so what I found interesting about this, because when I was talking about why you should consider using library instead of YouTube, one of the reasons was that a lot of people have been kicked off of YouTube. They've either been banned or they've been demonetized, meaning they're not able to make money off of their channel, even though they may have millions of viewers. And I've been following this story about YouTube kicking people off for a while. But when I went to Google to search for it, I wasn't able to find some of the people that I knew had been kicked off And so, for instance, if I go in and I type in YouTube ban, I guess in this case I get this, but the article, one of the articles that pops up is censorship of YouTube. So instead of this being about all of the hundreds of people that have been kicked off this platform, they show at the top of the list an article about YouTube being censored by governments, and then they link to their own privacy page. And so that's one example of what I'm talking about with censorship, and one of the things that's going on with big tech. So DuckDuckGo, as you can see here, gives you it also has information on YouTube censorship, but it really does highlight the different entities that have actually been kicked off of YouTube. And so that's something to keep in mind. So I recommend you try DuckDuckGo. Again, free. It's a free service, and so it's worth checking out. And so lastly, I'll leave it as I have with a lot of these in this series on different tech platforms. A quote from Edward Snowden, which is, "They know where you got on the bus, where you went to work, where you slept, and what other cell phone slept with you." And that really applies to Google because of where Google is with YouTube, Gmail, all of the different applications. I mean, again, we get these tools for free, but there is a very, very high cost to it, and we don't even know what that cost is. So this is why I'm sharing all of these tools, and I'm probably going to spend the rest of this week hitting on a couple of other tools, and then as we move into next week, I'm going to do more tips on what you can do in terms of making changes in your life, physically, emotionally, and so forth. So with that said, have a good evening, and I will be back tomorrow at 9 p.m. Thank you. Bye.